Hey everyone, welcome back. So today we're at Destination Doughnuts.
And you might be wondering, is it nighttime? No, it is actually 7 in the morning, but we're still dark out because it's wintertime.
7:33.
Yes.
And no sun.
Yep.
No sun, no fun. But there will be fun because we're getting donuts. We're gonna learn to make donuts, maybe taste test them, get to sit down and chat with the owner. So we're pretty excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun morning for sure.
All right.
A delicious morning.
You do not want to miss it. Let's go. And welcome. Today we are at Destination Doughnuts and we are speaking with the owner, Arlyn Sturwold. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, very well, thank you.
Awesome. And so we are doing a little bit of making donuts. We are in and out of that, but right now we're going to sit down and have a conversation. So would you be able to just tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, I tell you what, I am a baker. I've been a baker all my life. Really, from high school, I started baking as soon as I got out of school. I knew all along that I wanted to be a baker. It's funny, I tried to quit school after grade 10 to get a job in a bakery because I just knew and I wanted it that bad.
Aww.
Fortunately, the owner wouldn't hire me. She said, no, you go back and finish your high school, which I did. Thank goodness I did, because that really opened up quite a few other opportunities for me in life that I never even knew existed, when I was that young. But shortly after grade 12, I did get a job at that bakery, and I did my apprenticeship there.
Wow.
Right.
And so what led you to baking? Because you said you knew all along that baking was for you. What was that?
It was something inside of me. That was something that I just knew. And I don't know where that came from, but that's the only way I can explain it. It was just a feeling or a knowledge that that's what I wanted to do.
And what is it that you enjoy about baking?
Well, it's very pleasurable to take the raw materials, and in our case, things like flour, water, sugar, salt, shortening, yeast, to put all that together in the right proportions, to mix it and handle it the proper way, and then to make beautiful end use product or end enjoyment product. It's just something about bringing raw materials together into a finished product that really it was just a pleasure. Yeah. And of course, along with it, not just the sight of the big, but the smells. The smells are wonderful.
Yeah, even just walking in here this morning, all of us were like, oh my goodness, it smells so good.
Yeah, and working in that environment, we lose track of that. So it's always great when somebody like you walks in and makes that comment.
Yeah.
Because we kind of lose the ability to smell that when we're working.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're used to it every day.
Yes.
Whereas some of us come in and we're like, oh my gosh, I need to eat all this food now.
Yeah.
It was, maybe it's just me, but I feel like it would be so hard to work in a bakery because I feel like I would just want to eat everything. How do you manage to not just like taste test here and there?
Right. So the best thing, and this is what I do with new employees really, is I tell them, I encourage them to, as you said, eat everything, to try everything. And I do that for two reasons. The first reason, of course, is so that they know what it is they're selling, that they know what it tastes like, that they have a personal feeling toward it. Not that they're really allowed to express that too much. For example, if there's a flavor that you personally don't like, we don't want you to tell people that. But we certainly want you to talk about the flavors that you do like the best. Okay, that would be the first reason. The second reason is to get somebody used to all of these products very quickly when they start work here. Because as soon as you've had enough of something, then your own system says, okay, I have enough. I don't crave it anymore. And that's the best way to get over it. And I think this is why when you see people in the food industry and you say, well, how do you stay so slim or whatever? Well, it's partly that, you know, they're working with it all the time. And they are not eating it all the time. You know, they're just so used to it. And I find sometimes what I enjoy most about leaving my shop is going and finding some other bakery or a business somewhere and buying and eating some of their product. Because it's not mine, it's different, and I can experience some different flavors or different experiences of a texture, for example. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So, so again, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, working in the food industry somewhere. You get accustomed to it very quickly, and it loses that appeal that you always want to be eating it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then it's more of like a treat every now and then of
Yes.
being able to have it.
And you know, I think I'll mention this later on. One of my favorite donuts here is a nice, warm, glazed donut. The very basic donut. I still love that, and I've been here 6 years. You know,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it still is a treat. Yeah.
For sure. And so can you walk us through from when you first started working at a bakery to now having Destination Doughnuts, which is your own donut shop?
Right. So, thank you. My career really has gone in many different directions over the years. So, from high school, I spent 4 years in a bakery doing my apprenticeship, and then I left. I moved away from that town, and I moved in, like, that was in Barrhead, and then I moved to Jasper. I got a job in Jasper because I was looking for new opportunities, I guess, and kind of branching out on my own, getting away from the group that I apprenticed with, and having a certain amount of knowledge of baking. I'm like, okay, I can strike out and go on my own. I worked in Jasper for several years, and then I realized that I was working pretty hard there, and I said, hey, I should work that hard for my own business. And so at a very young age, at 25, I bought a bakery in Spruce Grove. And so moved to Spruce Grove, was married and had a 1-year-old child then, and started out in my own business, which was very scary. But I operated that for 3 years, and then I sold it. And I actually went from there, I started working bakery supply sales. So I ended up spending approximately 15 years with a company in Edmonton as bakery supply sales. So I was a commissioned sales rep for a while, and then I was promoted to branch manager, so I did that. After leaving them, then I bought another bakery in Edmonton on White Avenue, and I operated that for, I think it was 10 years. And I sold it to a group, and I managed the affairs for a year because 3 bakeries came together and formed one. And when I left there, I wanted to take a bit of retirement time from baking. But that only lasted about a week or so.
You just missed it too much, or it called you back?
You know what? It didn't call me back so much as I was not ready to retire.
Gotcha.
That wasn't my. So I got a call from. He was my son-in-law, who was a welder, and he at the time said, "Hey, if you're not doing anything right now, I need a helper here." And so I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll work, earn some money," and I started working. Now I'm working with pipe and everything else to do with the building of pipelines. Going from food to that. So in short order, I'm like, I really enjoy this. And I said to him, what do you call this trade that I'm doing? And he said, well, it's, you're a pipe fitter. You can be a pipe fitter. So I said, hey, I want to go to school. I want to apprentice. So I signed up for the apprenticeship. Now, I am on record as being the oldest apprentice in Alberta to start in the pipe fitting apprenticeship. Okay. Because I explained, I had a lot of years in the food industry and started pipe fitting. So I became a journeyman. In 3 years, I had my journeyman ticket.
Wow.
And I worked in that trade for, I think it was 8 years. Yeah. So I was really enjoying it, but the group I was working with got a job in Chetwynd, BC, and I was in no position within my personal life to leave and to go to Chetwynd, BC. It was a 6-in-1 job. You only had 1 day off a week, and you cannot drive home from Chetwynd with 1 day off. And so I had to leave that. I said, I can't stay. My daughter, at about the same time, had been talking to me about, gourmet donuts, because she had seen in Toronto, she had been in Toronto several times, and she had seen a business called Sunshine Donuts. And she said, Dad, I think that we can do this in Edmonton. So her and her partner at the time, they were in Toronto once. They actually bought a dozen of the donuts, went to the airport, put those donuts on the plane to me. They sent them to a business here in Edmonton on under 70th Street. So I went to the business to pick up the donuts from there. Right? So we tried them out here. And I said, I can do this, but I know that I can do some things better than what I'm seeing here. And so again, whenever you do go into anything in life, whether it's a business or just a job for another company, when you have that self-confidence to achieve certain things, and when you have that, then you can take on anything, because your success is not going to be dependent on external situations. It's going to be dependent on what you have and what you bring to it. And so I opened this based on the donuts that we saw at this business in Toronto. I opened this. I found the location. I spent a massive amount of money redesigning this and buying equipment. And so like all my retirement money went into this. And I opened it up. Now, I'll tell you what, as much as I say it depends on your belief in yourself, I was really nervous on opening day. I was nervous because then reality hits you, and it's like, here I am at this age. I put all my retirement money into a business. I have no idea if anybody's even going to shop here, right? And we had the windows covered up with brown paper during the last week of basically construction and cleanup and all the stuff that we did not want people seeing. And then it started baking. We had all the approvals from the health board and the fire and everybody else. We were allowed to open that day. I mean, those permits had to be in place. And if they weren't in place, we wouldn't have opened. Okay, so there we were. We got everything ready. 8 o'clock in the morning we opened, and I pulled the paper off the window, and lo and behold, there was cars. This was November, 6 years ago. There was cars in the parking lot waiting to get in here. Yeah. So that was such a good feeling, and so people came in. And of course, thank goodness we have social media in these days, because in my earlier years in business, all we had was, if you know about it or not, we had yellow pages. Get your hat in the yellow pages. And if you wanted it to stand out, you paid extra to get it printed in red block letters. I mean, that's what we had. And if you missed the once a year publication of the yellow pages, you weren't in there. You were not in the phone book. So social media today is just one of the greatest things. It is great that we could spread our message and that people read it, they knew about it, and they were waiting outside. So we started out that day, the opening day was very good sales-wise. And really, it's been good for the 6 years. It's been good, yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So it was quite the journey for
Yeah.
me to get here, but here I am. Yeah.
Quite the journey, but so much experience, not only in a bakery setting, but also just life in general. I feel
Well,
like you've really had a grasp on a whole bunch of things that I'm sure have helped in your business and
Yeah.
in everything since
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, I never expected, growing up on a farm out in the Barhead area, I never expected some of the things that happened to me that they would happen to me, So it's been really rewarding. Yeah, and the good thing too is that I could stay in an area close to where I grew up, where I feel comfortable, and that I was allowed to have business success doing what I do. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so for Destination Doughnuts, what would you say sets it apart really from other bakeries or other donut shops around town?
Well, here's what I believe sets us apart is that what we bring to the table, I guess, is the knowledge of baking. We have two journeyman bakers working here. We know that basically the science behind baking. So what we are doing in terms of handling our product and producing our product, that we believe that it just gives the best quality in terms of flavor, freshness, and shelf life. And the process that you have been witnessing this morning of mixing dough and letting it rest and punching it, and then letting it rest and punching it. So we're developing a number of things, not only flavor, but we're increasing shelf life by doing it that way. So we do that as probably most sets us apart the most, I guess, is the knowledge we bring and then the handling of it that we bring in. And I don't say that there's a negative on what anybody else does, because I don't know what everybody else does. I just know what we do, and we just do it the best based on our knowledge, our education. So, and then basically to carry on to that, just, we're open 6 days a week, we're baking 6 days a week, we bake twice a day, so we really have 12 bakes a week as a minimum. Tuesday here we start out differently. We had 3 major orders to get out early in the morning, and so yeah, that required literally starting the night before and working through the night. So we have that flexibility too, that when we get corporate orders, whenever they need it by, that tells us when we have to start working. And if it means working through the night, then that's what we do. Yeah.
Absolutely. You were speaking a bit to it when we were standing over there, but your hours of operation that you're open are a lot different from the hours of operation in which you work, and bakers often work at different hours. Could you speak to the open hours of operation and then maybe a bit on what your schedule looks like?
Okay. So our store hours here through the week, we're open at 7, from 7 until 5 in the afternoon. And so as I was mentioning earlier, it is a 3-hour process from when we start mixing the dough to when we start frying the dough. What I didn't say was after we fry it, we have a waiting time for it to cool down, and then we decorate it. So it really becomes 4 hours worth of time for us to get donuts ready for the showcase. So if we open at 7, we have to back that up now till 3 a.m. is the latest that we have to start. And then of course at 6 o'clock, then staff come in to start the decorating. So between 6 and 7 is when we're filling our display. And so, yeah, 4 hours it has to be. So what it does mean though is I don't have to stay till 5. We do 2 bakes through the day, of course, with myself and my baker. The thing about starting early is that my work day does end a bit earlier too. I don't have to stay till the store closes. I have staff here for that.
Thank goodness, otherwise you'd be working like over 12-hour days.
And that takes all the fun out of life,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gotta have the work-life balance. You can't just all be work.
Absolutely.
Even if it is something that you enjoy, because even that too much is not fun.
Yeah, that's right. It's very important.
For
Yeah.
sure. And so, speaking about fun, can you maybe speak to like the funnest donut that you've ever made, or maybe your most favorite, or?
Well, yeah, you know that maybe we don't go too much into areas of different style of donuts. Halloween allows us to, you know, to get a little funky or, you know, spooky designs or whatever. But we kind of stick to what we see on the website, like 30 plus varieties on a regular basis. So yeah, we kind of go with donuts that people understand, the flavorings and the toppings that they understand. I am not looking to make a new donut every single week or whatever with, you know, load this on or load that on. And to me, it's just, you're just loading a donut with stuff that some other company is making. I know that some will dip their donuts, for example, in cereal. You know, it's like, oh, okay, that's cool, except that that cereal is a product you buy in, and now the donut has to share a space with the cereal, for example, that you have no control over how it tastes. But when I say that, I also know that I dip the products in a lot of, I dip the donuts in a lot of products we buy, and that could be into, say, coconut or scorbits or whatever. So, like, I'm guilty too of dipping into things, but we try to balance the different flavors and the textures, I guess, that we put on donuts. So you try to pay attention to that, and kind of stick with it. And we've learned too that people come in and, you know, a lot of them have their favorites. If we try to take a favorite out of the showcase to put a new one in, they'll still end up asking for it maybe. So it's like, well, you know, we know what sells here, right? So we stick with it. And then every now and then add something. Like very recently we added a mocha dot donut, and mocha being a coffee chocolate combination flavor. So, you know, we have a coffee flavored custard goes on the donut, and a coffee flavored whip topping then goes on the donut. And then I buy some of those little chocolate covered quinoas to put on top as the dots for mocha dot.
Aww.
And that's kind of a takeoff on the term polka dot, right? So, I mean, polka dot is a term from many years ago, but it was popular. So we call it mocha dots, for example, right? But it's really straightforward in terms of what we do. We put the custard on, we put the cream on. The flavor has to be right. It has to be balanced, right? So, yeah, that's so we don't go like really wild.
Not really wild, but still, everything looks amazing. We took shots of it so people will see, but everything looks like so much fun. Such pretty colors and very different textures as to what you were speaking about before.
Yeah.
They all look amazing. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. And I know you said your favorite was a fresh, just plain glazed donut.
Glazed donut.
Yeah.
Because it really allows a person to taste the donut that we are frying versus tasting the toppings, right? I mean, if we, like I mentioned coconut, so we dip the donut in white chocolate and then into coconut, and when you eat that, it is a nice combination, but you really get a good flavor of chocolate and coconut versus the donut.
The
right?
donut itself.
So really, it's just a basic glazed donut. To me, it's still the favorite. Yeah.
And so speaking more about the flavors, again, we spoke a bit about it over there. Were there any holiday flavors that maybe you could speak to, or are those more of a surprise and people should come in and see what they are?
Well, yes. So with Christmas coming very soon, we will be bringing, or we'll be adding 4 different ones to the mix. And one of them, of course, is rum and eggnog. Now that has an eggnog filling inside the donut and dipped in a caramel sauce that has quite a bit of rum added to it. So we have that, and then of course we have a mint flavored, a dark chocolate with the green mint flavored, the After 8 we call it, because it's an After 8 on it. We have that one. We have crushed candy cane white chocolate topping. So we do that. Then for other seasons, we do, the big one I guess is Valentine's, so we do a heart-shaped donut for that.
Aw, that's so
that
cute.
is very popular. We put together an actual package for that called the Hearts and Hugs box.
Aw,
So yeah,
that's so cute.
there's 2 round donuts in there, which are the hugs, and then there is 4 heart-shaped donuts, and they are filled, and they're of course dipped in red icing, and then they have extra decoration on them. So so we do things like that for different seasons or events. Okay. For Mother's Day donuts, basically the strawberry cheesecake is really popular for Mother's Day. Yeah. Father's Day, believe it or not, apple fritter. Okay, that's a good one.
Those are my favorite donuts.
So, yeah, and it just tends to be a donut that resonates with men, and sometimes their adult children will phone in and place an order and they say, well, it's for our dad, so add some apple fritters. Right?
Aw, yeah.
It's interesting.
Very nice. And so you're speaking a bit about the most popular ones for Father's Day, Mother's Day. What would you say is like the most popular donut in general, or like
Yeah.
some of your top picks of people?
Within the store here, whether people walk in or whether they're ordering off the website or through Uber Eats, 2 donuts are the top, really. One is a strawberry cheesecake, and the other one is creme brulee. Now, the creme brulee is a filled donut. It has custard filling inside, vanilla custard. Then we dip that donut in light glazed to make it sticky. We dip that into granulated sugar, and then we torch it. And we actually have that sugar boiling on top of the donut. And then when we're done torching, it just has this beautiful, really brown, candied topping on the donut. And it crunches when you eat it. And it's a wonderful flavor that we get by literally burning sugar. But the sugar, because we've dipped it in a wet icing, and then when we turn it over and torch it, we're driving off the moisture from that icing, and that's what prevents the donut from burning. Because as we are, really charring that sugar, caramelizing the sugar, it keeps the surface temperature bearable by the fact that there's moisture being driven off. And it's kind of a good timing when we're done torching, the water is gone, the sugar is all caramelized, and the donut isn't affected at all from the torch. And we use a propane torch. I mean, some guys solder with these torches.
Yeah,
right?
they're hot.
yeah, very hot.
Wow.
So,
I know Sahar's really excited to try that one later on.
yeah. So those would be the 2 that really stand out. Yeah.
They sound like very like staple items that a lot of people would want to try.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so before you were speaking a bit about taking bigger orders and having them ready for pickup early in the morning, is there maybe one story that you remember from like a really, really big order, or like a really crazy, absurd order, or anything like that?
Well, I think one stands out. It was to, I can say, a government department. Within the first 2 years, I think, that we were open. And the order was for approximately 80 dozen. So that is getting close to 1,000 donuts. Right? And that had to be ready by a certain time mid-morning and delivered. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So I had a truck at the time, and I think we got everything fit into the cab because, again, it was a cold winter day. The wind was nasty that morning. It was the worst delivery conditions. And, we are bringing donuts from the truck into the building. And so you don't want cold donuts. Cold, chilled donuts are just not good. Like, they have to stay warm, like room temperature or whatever environment they came from to be served. So we were dashing very, very quickly as we carried the donuts. That to this day, that delivery still stands out. It was great, but it was challenging.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like a nightmare. Not like a nightmare, but like kind of,
And anybody that lives here knows what it can be like with a cold wind in the wintertime blowing. Absolutely.
But you did it, and
Yep.
you're alive to tell the tales, so
Yep.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's right. And we have had numerous other large orders since then for all sorts of different functions. And sometimes it is a government agency. A lot of times it's business. It could be lawyers, could be accountants, or any other group. And the other area that it's really popular in is weddings. Okay, so weddings people for weddings have really gone away from any kind of cake. Other things too that used to be big, maybe like cupcakes or any other individual treats. Donuts have really come into their own for weddings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we, we're fortunate. There's really not into wedding season right now, but we were fortunate in that we had quite a few weddings that we were asked to produce for this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And again, that's wonderful. It's such a good feeling to be the company invited to share in their most special day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so we can be part of that.
Yeah,
So,
and then it's like that memorable moment, like that was what they had, and then they can come back here for like anniversaries or
That's
like
right.
parties and stuff like that.
yeah.
That's so sweet.
And some do. Some couples do. In fact, one couple, it really stands out. And what stands out is that the day they got married, and I delivered the donuts, and as I got to this building, the public building that they were having their ceremonies and reception in, the couple was walking down this hill in the river valley here. Walking down the hill, they had just done pictures. The bride was fully dressed, but she had this large shawl in her. It was cold. It was so cold. And they were walking through that, and here I am. I'm the donut guy in the parking lot eating. and so we get the donuts in. Well, as a result of that kind of, friendly, happy meeting in the parking lot, they have come back over the 2 years or maybe 3 years ago they got married. So they came back, and then last year they came back 2 days before Father's Day, and they came back with their brand new little girl. So I said, well, this really completes it, right? Going from meeting them prior to their wedding, and then supplying the donuts on their wedding, which was, the weather was not a day to get married in, but we still see them.
Yeah.
And now they are a family of 3.
Oh,
Yeah, so
that's so sweet.
So I enjoy that. I mean, I look at that and say, wow, like we were selected to be part of their, not just their day, but really part of their life.
Absolutely.
together.
Yeah.
So
That's so sweet and
Yeah,
very,
it's-
very special.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then we've had other days too that it's like we made a mistake this summer. We made a serious mistake. I'll tell you what, we had 3 weddings one day on a Saturday. Would you believe all 3 brides, their name was Sarah?
Really?
Really.
What are the chances?
And we had not gotten enough information from each of them to fully differentiate them. What happened was that one group, the husband was really allergic to nuts.
Mm-hmm.
We had to be extremely careful with his order, extremely careful. 2 of those orders, one order was handed out to the wrong Sarah, because somebody came to pick up an order for Sarah at a certain time. One of my staff, which was part of my family, my granddaughter, gave the wrong one. And oh man, I just, when we found out an hour later that the wrong ones had been given, because it's like suddenly I had to go and swap these donuts.
Mm-hmm.
One wedding was here in Edmonton, so it was easy to retrieve the donuts. The other one was out at Peanut Lake, which is about 45 minutes northwest of here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I had to swap them, and then I had to get out to Peanut Lake. And so I get there, and I get into this building, and I'm looking for anybody that I recognize, and suddenly the groom is there. And he's like, hey, Arlyn, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And I'm like, I'm not really here to join you. I'm here to fix a mistake, right?
Oh my.
So, and this is another thing. When we are in the food production business, we have to be very aware of people's requirements and or restrictions, health-wise. And we do our best here, but it just shows that with the best of intentions, we were hit with a few circumstances. The first one being is that all 3 brides had the same name, that
Yeah.
day. Now, who could even write that?
That sounds
Yeah.
like it's from a movie. Like that does not just
Yeah.
happen. That's tough.
So anyway, we recovered. We got the right product to the right people. But this is just something that you can face when you're in business, the food business or any other business. But when it's based on customer service, you have to be prepared to give that service. Right? These are just not words; these are actions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So fortunately, we recovered well, and you know what? In doing so, you actually come out of a situation better than what you went into it if it hadn't happened. And so, the fact that we had it happen, and that we were able to recover from it, we really gained more points. You know. So, and that's the other thing I think people should never fear to admit. Like, we're human. We made an error, and in this case, I hate to point my finger at my granddaughter. It was her.
Yeah.
You know, and so these things can happen.
Absolutely. But I think the fact that, like you said, you own up to it, you know, we're all human. People make mistakes. You find a way to fix it, and you
Yep.
did. Like, you could have just said, oh, sorry about that. It's not our problem now. You've taken the donuts, whatever. But instead, like, fixing the problem and going that extra step to provide that safety. And like you were saying, some people have restrictions or preferences, whatever.
Yeah.
And by the sounds of it, you do your best to accommodate them. And so
Yeah.
people are very grateful for that, I'm sure.
Oh yes, and sometimes people will call here just specifically to inquire. They say, we're working in an office and somebody ordered donuts and they came and they look so good, but we need to know, do you have peanuts in your facility? Okay, so we have to be very open and honest about, yes, we do. Secondly, how we handle everything. And thirdly, to assure them that we never put a peanut butter donut in a random box, in a variety box, unless it was ordered. We never do that on our own, because we have to go through life with the assumption that, you know what, that peanut butter can seriously, it can kill even. It can for sure make people extremely unwell. And so we just have to really be aware of that. So when people phone in and they know what our protocol is toward that, and we're talking mainly about, you know, the different ingredients that can harm people.
For sure.
Yeah.
My sister has anaphylaxis, like to
Okay.
peanuts and multiple things, but peanuts being one of them.
Yeah.
So the fact that you do that, that really means a lot to me, and I know
Yeah.
to her and to other people in that position, because when donuts look good, you want to eat them,
Oh, yes.
but
Yeah.
you can't always take the risk when
That's right.
an allergy is your situation, you know? So
Yeah, we're aware of that. You know, even to the point when we decorate a peanut butter donut, then we decorate it and we put it right on the display pan. A lot of the other donuts may go onto a temporary pan on the rack, waiting until there's room on display pans. Peanut butter goes right on the pan, so we don't mix it with anything else. And we have red-handled tongs sitting by the different donuts with nuts on them, because we have almonds on some other donuts too. And so we have separate tongs and separate display pans and so on. But we have to be honest and say, you know, there's peanuts in the building. And there can be a transfer of ingredients. There
for
can
sure,
be. Yeah.
absolutely.
So, but we have to, definitely have to be aware of that, alert to it.
I mean, I think you do a great job by the sounds of it. With anything, you know, you have challenges, there's successes and whatnot. What would you say is probably the biggest challenge of having your own business?
Well, what I'm finding really, and it is not really centered on food, it's not really centered on employee relations or anything. It is more, I guess, of what we're facing outside political decisions. I'm talking first of all, I guess when I start out about, say, the cost of permits and so on to get going, but what we're dealing with now, this is a real challenge. It's financial. The carbon tax is, man, that is a killer, a business killer. And I'm finding that, like, my power bill can go up 50% in a month with no reason other than government influence. So this is something that is just amazing what we're having to deal with nowadays in business. And I would guess as you go around and talk to any business and every business, it's the same thing. If you have natural gas or electricity coming into your facility, my goodness, like it's going to be really a challenge now, financial challenge. So yeah, that's the reality of today.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I don't have a business, so I don't know the ins and outs of it, but we've talked to quite a few businesses at this point, and I know that that's a big thing that's challenging for sure. On the opposite end of that, though, what would you say is the best or the most rewarding part of your job?
Well, I think then I look back again at personal relationships, interpersonal relationships here with staff. So some of my staff have been with me like since we opened. People don't really quit here. I don't really end up getting too many vacancies.
Yeah. And you're doing a good job.
Well, yeah, I guess, like thank you for saying that. But I do know that if somebody, feels good in a business, that they will stay, because we need more things than just a paycheck when we go to work at a place. Right? We need to have a good feeling about ourselves and about our contribution to the company. And, hopefully we supply that here to the people, that environment that makes them feel good. Yeah, so I think that's really good. And as I look at the staff too, it's not really big. We have 8 people here. It's not really big, but it's dedicated staff. And anytime something really special comes up, I can ask some staff members for a different shift or extra help or whatever, and they give it. For example, 2 mornings ago, I had to come in on my day off because of the orders that we had, and I asked another staff member to start early. She started at 4 to start decorating, right? And it's like, no problem. Instead of her normal shift at 6, she'd come at 4. So those are the things, to answer your question, those are the things that probably are the best part. Yeah.
That's so sweet. It creates more of a welcoming environment as opposed to I have to go to work,
Yeah.
Which is really
if
nice.
anybody feels that way working here, then I would really encourage them to go and find something that makes them feel better. Because we spend too much of our life at work to not be able to have a decent feeling about who we are when we're at work and what our contributions are, and are we valued. So I look at that from an employee perspective and say, well, that's what I want to feel when I work for people. And so I try to give that here.
That's amazing. I wish more bosses were like you. I think that idea promotes such a very healthy way for your employees to keep a good mental health and emotional and physical health, because they can focus on obviously their job and be happy at work, but also have their own time outside of work where they're able to do other things and take a break from working all the time.
Yeah, that's right. And for me, it's important because the employees, they are the face to my customers. They represent me to the customers. And so I need them to be in a good headspace for that, so that, because I can't be here all the time. And I have to rely on my employees to do as I would like done to the customers. And so the best way to ensure that is to make sure that they have a good work environment.
Absolutely,
to begin with. Yeah.
For sure. And speaking of environment, if you could open a Destination Doughnuts anywhere else in the entire world, where would you open it?
Well, now I thought about that a lot, and I gotta tell you this. I'm really pretty happy here in Edmonton. I'm glad that I'm from the area. I had a lot of confidence in the business environment in Edmonton. If I were to expand the business, well, I would look regionally. I would look within the province to start with, and then potentially east. But that's just if.
Yeah.
But Edmonton was my choice, and it was a good choice for me.
I think so too. I'm really happy we're here.
Yeah.
And so our final question for you, it doesn't have to be baking specific, work specific, anything like that, but what would you say is the best piece of advice you've received throughout your life?
When I was younger, it wasn't a straight up piece of advice, but it was something that I was told by a boss, and that was, so I was about 21 years old, and I had just started working in Jasper at the bakery, and the owner was kind of he wasn't like a baker, he owned it, but I had to come and bake with the staff and be in charge. And so I hadn't really moved. I was done my shift on a Saturday, and I was wanting to get out of there because I needed to leave to go to Edmonton from Jasper. And I just went to him and I said, hey, I'm done, I want to go. And he looked around and he says, well, you're not done yet. I'd only worked for him for a week. Now, I didn't know him too well, and I'm young, and I'm like taken aback a little bit, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he says, well, you haven't swept up yet. Now, I had come out of another business 4 years there where I never had to sweep because there was another staff who always cleaned up. And so he said, no, your job isn't done until you clean it all up, right? And so if I can kind of paraphrase that and expand on it a bit and say, that was the most important thing for me in the food industry. It's like, if you're forced to clean up at the end of the shift, you try to get ahead of that. Clean up as you go. But even better than that was to learn to work clean. Clean habits, clean environment, because we're making food. And when that realization kind of hit, and I can, now that you ask me that so many years later, in my mind, I can travel back and I can see the video of that happening right there, because it really did have a profound effect on me, on my career, and it was positive. It was positive. At the time, I did not feel that. Yeah. It was like, begrudgingly, I got out the broom and the mop.
You're like, fine, I guess I'll do it.
Yeah. But that really was the most important situation that happened to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Nice talking to you.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
I loved chatting about the baking business.
Yeah.
When I was baking too, I owned a bakery in White Avenue, and for 12 years I supplied the Westin Hotel kitchen and Fantasyland Hotel.
Oh, wow.
So the two of them were interesting because Fantasyland Hotel and the Jubilations Dinner Theater, that's an evening function, so they would need their product delivered later on in the day. The Westin Hotel primarily bought morning treats and sweets from me for their morning meetings and for when the restaurant opened. Bear this in mind, if a meeting starts at 7 a.m. and some business people come in at 7 in the morning, it's a meeting and breakfast is going to be served, and they have all of these things and, you know, pastries, the Danishes, the muffins and croissants and all of that, you know. And so they never really gave it a thought because their day is starting and they're having breakfast and in a company meeting and all. Yeah. And every now and then I'd run into somebody and saying, well, like, you know, when do you start? Do you have this done? I said, well, let me tell you, when I have to start. In order to get this, I don't have to get it there at 7 when your meeting starts. I have to get it there at 5 in the morning when their staff start to get your breakfast ready for your meeting at 7. And so a lot of people don't even think about it. It's not just the baker who has to get the baked goods done. It's like the people that work in there. Because when I would do my bulk delivery, no, they have to take that. And they have to either plate it or do whatever, you know. So, you know, it's no big deal really. When I'm up through the night, I love it. Who do I see working through the night? I always see the fire trucks. If there is ever a need, the fire truck guys, the firemen, they're up, they're working through the night.
Yeah.
The other ones I see is the police. And if you ever run into trouble, they are always working through the night, ready to assist. Okay, and then I see multiple other traffic up and down the street. I don't know who they are or what they do. but there's people up.
Yeah.
I live west of Stony Plain, so I come in on the highway every morning, and I'm driving east, and there's not much traffic driving east. But the westbound traffic, it is continuous. Truck after truck after truck after truck. Everybody heading west. The overnight and the daytime drive to Vancouver. Okay? 12-hour drive with so many loads are going to Vancouver. It is incredible at 1 or 2 in the morning. Incredible how much traffic, truck traffic, is heading west.
Yeah.
These are guys that, I don't know their sleeping patterns or family life or whatever, but these are guys that are sitting behind the wheel all night long for a 12-hour drive, all by themselves.
Yeah.
All they've got for company is their radios or whatever, you know. Yeah. And then they drop their load, they switch out, and they come back to Edmonton.
Yeah. My uncle actually is a truck driver.
Okay.
So typically it depends how long their drive is. If it's more than, I believe, 8 hours, they have to have 2 people in there.
Yeah.
So even if you see one person driving, they have like a little section in there for people to sleep.
Yes.
So the one guy will be sleeping in the back, one guy will be driving, then they'll switch off, like when they make a stop and stuff. But yeah. It's long.
That is regulated nowadays, so that you guys don't fall asleep. But yeah, it's quite the life when you think about it, right? So don't ever feel bad for me getting up and starting work at 3 in the morning in my own store where I get to go home in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
This is the beauty of starting work at 3 in the morning, is that by noon or 1 I'm looking at, okay, it's Sunday morning. But I feel for some people in the jobs that they have to do, you know, and through the night. So it's that's just my schedule.
Hey everyone!
Hello everyone!
We just finished up at Destination Doughnuts, and I am so excited to eat a donut!
Yeah, oh, they look so good. I'm so excited.
You all saw them. They look delightful and delicious, and Arlyn was so kind, so nice. What an expert. What a king. Go to Destination Doughnuts. I'm sure the donuts will be amazing. I haven't eaten them yet, but I'm sure they will be.
And
we will do a little review. Yeah, literally. So yeah, thanks. It looks so good. You guys ready?
Okay. Oh wow.
Oh
my god, they're very soft. They're so soft. Oh my god.
Yeah, they are.
These are very honest and real reactions right now. They're donuts.
It's very honest and real reactions. Ready?
Right? Okay.
Wait, cheers.
Oh, cheers. Oh my god.
Oh my god, this is so good.
I can't get over how fluffy they are. Like, I don't think you guys... My fingers are almost
She's
touching.
thick.
Like...
She's a thick girl and I'm here for it.
But it's so good. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Delicious.
Destination Doughnuts.
Destination Doughnuts.
We'll be going back for sure.